Reliance is now going to operate data centers through special purpose vehicles. What does that really mean for India, Karthik?
So Shweta, this is in fact a big story, and this story is going to unfold, and we will peel layers of this story as we move along. But primarily, data centers are gold. This is a facility, a highly guarded facility with all the Mission Impossible sort of safety features in place, where retina scans and biometrics and multiple layers guarding these huge servers which are housed underground, mostly underground, in facilities specifically curated that they don't get flooded in case of some sort of a fire breakout or some minor explosion. The data centers are protected, and the data centers are kept absolutely safe. Now, what are these data centers? These data centers are pretty much what we understand as cloud, right? You don't have any information stored locally on your computer. You store it on the internet. And the assumption is it goes on the cloud, but the cloud is actually not somewhere up there in the skies.
It's a server.
The cloud is actually a data center.
Right.
The cloud is, these are servers, multiple servers with backups of each server housed in a facility called a data center. This is gold mine for real estate. It commands premium real estate rentals, very, very long-term sort of contracts that you can't just move data centers one fine day with one notice of eviction. And these are data centers which are, the value of these data centers is much more precious than gold, because this data gets lost, this data gets corrupt, and pretty much every application, every enterprise which has any data of its own or of its customers is gone, right? So up until now, US has been the leader when it comes to data centers, and data centers are also spread across the globe in multiple geographies. And when you do, let's say, an internet test speed, when you ping, it actually pings a particular server which is housed in a data center and gives you your rate of speed or your sort of, rate of recovery or transmission of data. All that happens basically because of the proximity of the data center. How long does it take from your laptop and one internet connection to ping a certain server for that server to respond to you? Now, when you look at, let's say, I'll give you some basic examples. You want to stream some content on Netflix or on Newsline Plus, a streaming platform, right? You want to stream content. That content is housed somewhere. And that content then real time gets distributed using content distribution networks or CDN. So that content gets streamed real time from some data center, bouncing off to some tower and coming onto your device, which is reading internet off that tower. So the closer you have data centers to your house, or the closer you have it to your country's geography, the better are your internet speeds. Now imagine this in the context.
And the more protected is the data.
Yeah, I'll just come to protection, right? That's a whole new debate. But, but I'm just talking about speed and efficiency right now.
Right.
So with Jio rolling out 5G services and Airtel and many other players rolling out 5G services, with artificial intelligence, which uses a lot of server space and a lot of processing power to churn this data. Where is all that happening? It's happening somewhere in the cloud, which means it's happening in a data center. So 5G, artificial intelligence, Internet of Things, IoT, all of these are applications which will require data to be transformed, churned to produce results almost real time. And if that happens when the proximity of the server is closer to you, it just improves agility, efficiency, speed. So this is one part of it, and which is why data centers in India are a big deal, because up until now data centers were housed in USA, in Germany, in other parts of Europe, including UK, closer home, China, where we don't have any control over our data, even closer home or similarly distanced to home, Singapore. These have been major data centers in the world. India has been slow in its takeoff of data servers. You had companies like SIFI own a few data centers. In fact, we have one very close to our office in Sector 125, Noida. But apart from that, large-scale data centers were missing. Now, let's talk about the safety of data, and this is where the perspective becomes even more interesting, is that Government of India has been wanting to house Indian data in India itself, and not just data that it owns, which is our data of our income tax returns, our Aadhaar, and all the other government services, the public digital infrastructure and the public digital goods. Not just that, but even companies doing business in India. And I'm talking about big tech here: Google, Meta, Facebook, Instagram, WhatsApp, Telegram, Apple, right? These are companies, Twitter, these are companies over which there are multiple battles of data protection and data housing being fought. Now, unfortunately, until these data centers and hence this data within these data centers is housed outside of India, Indian government does not have jurisdiction.
Very little control.
Very little control. If this data is housed within an Indian facility, within the confines of India's geography, and by an Indian company holding at least 1/3, which is the case with Reliance, the other 1/3 being held by Brookfield, as well as Digital Realty Limited, which is a real estate company. So as long as there is an Indian company in control of that data center, as long as it is housed in India, the government has far more control over that data.
And it's far more safe.
Safety,
as is assumed,
I think, is going to be still a challenge, because
as is
if you
assumed,
ask me, you know, the first two cities where Reliance, this special purpose vehicle, this joint venture, tripartite joint venture, the two cities where the data is going to be housed in these data centers is going to be Mumbai and Chennai.
Right.
Where I fear humidity and flooding and excessive rainfalls are a concern.
When
but
I say safe,
I think there are enough people who would have done enough and more due diligence
Absolutely.
to ensure that it continues to be safe in these two cities.
So when I say safe, I'm saying in context of China, which is what in the Indian government
That's
has
right.
constantly brought to
Yes,
forth
so the layers of
fears
protection,
around
the layers of
protection of
safety
data.
of this data, the layers of preventing leakage or misuse of this data is the positive. But then the government being able to extract influence over that data is a threat.
Absolutely.
And that, I think, is something that hopefully we should all be safeguarded against in the new telecom bill and the new Digital India bill, which hopefully, if not in the monsoon session, in the winter session ahead of elections should come to fruition.
Space is heating up, adding to what Karthik has said, because Adani had already invested 213 million in this space before. So
$1 million, million rupees?
$1 billion.
Okay.
213 adds to the Reliance 122. So this space is heating up in India. So the challenge to China, we are very much there.
All right, all right. We are, of course...
Intentions are there, at least.
Okay. We are posing a formidable challenge to India. Both Adani and Ambani, of course, trying to build data centers in India. How successful they're going to be, especially in cities which are more prone to flooding and humidity, we'll, of course, have to wait and watch out.